Welcome back, all you Regs and all you Shinies. Welcome to the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe, the 1313 Podcast. I'm Tommy.
I'm Jacob. And I'm Jackson.
And this is our Have a Chat series. In this series, we invite other members of the community and other creators onto the show to talk about their experience with Star Wars, and we just kind of have a chat. So today we have a very special guest. Today we invite Rexin Around onto the show.
Woo! Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to finally get to chat with you, and thanks for dealing with my crazy schedule.
No, that's fine. That's great. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I started making, Star Wars fan my whole life, obviously. I talked about that a lot. Started making content actually in like 2010. I was really didn't know what I was doing, and I started posting kind of review and collection videos, and it kind of just took off from there. And in 2016, I believe, I got a suit of armor from Imperial Surplus, and Rexin Around was born, which depending on what side you're on was the greatest day or one of the worst days. So I did that for a long time, made a ton of fun content, really kind of popularized Star Wars vlogs, which I couldn't find any of when I started, and I was like, I should make some Star Wars vlogs, and now I feel like it's definitely grown, which has been awesome. Used to do 501st Troops, I do helmet tutorials and armor reviews, and it kind of just expanded into that. Did my own podcast for a while, and now I'm just enjoying not doing anything for a little bit. So it's good to be here to chat.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and we're glad that we could have you on as well. I know for all of us, really, we've all been watching your stuff. I feel like the majority of us as well ended up finding your content when you went to TikTok, because I know from some of your previous episodes you said when you went to TikTok, you felt like you blew up a whole lot more and like found a much greater audience as well. So I feel like we're part of that gigantic swarm of people.
Well, thank you. That's super cool. And it's crazy how much like clone TikTok exploded.
Oh, yes.
And I think I was just kind of like right place, right time. And I found out later down the road that there was a certain company that was putting some money behind my TikToks that I didn't actually know about. And so it was, they definitely looked at me as a creator they wanted to help develop. And because I was like, why are these TikToks all getting 2 million, 3 million views? It didn't make any sense. It wasn't all just me. I wish it was, but there was some big corporation money behind that apparently.
Gotcha.
That's awesome. So with the armor specifically, so I know you have several suits that you've done, and then obviously there's the line of clone helmets behind you there. You said you were working on something going forward right before we started recording. Yeah,
I'm currently, everything's flipped. So there we go. Captain Vaughn. So I'm currently working on a Sanitize Creations Captain Vaughn. And for those who don't know, Sanitize, this is, as he markets it, the most accurate commander helmet you can get, down to the millimeter. So I can actually grab it if you guys want me to, and I'll show you a quick little demo about it. So please don't judge. It's obviously far from done, and I've kind of given up in certain areas for now. But this is his Commander Cody helmet, and it doesn't have all the attachments on it, but it sits as one of the most movie accurate helmets that you can buy. So it's really like unparalleled in the beauty of the print, and then all of the details or the cast, and then all the details are printed. So it's, man, if I ever finish this thing, it's probably going to be one of my favorite helmets because it is just gorgeous.
It looks awesome.
Look good. I do follow Sanitize Creations and a lot of the other armor makers as well. And yeah, I was going to say that did look like the Cody sculpt helmet.
Yeah, it is. He sent me a couple of them. I basically paid for one, and he was like, here's a second one. I think he must have known that I destroy my helmets. So eventually when I get the confidence, I'll probably do a Cody as well, because it's just such a cool cast. But I do have I have a Cody from Samoy Levart as well.
Nice. Oh, nice. Yeah. I've been wanting to buy a helmet from him for a while, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I look at it every time the drops come out, and I'm like, and then my dad has to force me not to. He's like, you can't.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive to get it over from Russia, but I mean, finished helmets, I don't know anybody who does it better on a large scale. Obviously, Cybercraft popped up recently. I'm not a big fan of them. They have kind of a little shady in their business practices, but they also, their weathering is, it just feels all very quick and rushed sometimes. No shade if you do have one of those helmets. I think they are very pretty, but Samuel of Art, it is. What you see on the screen is exactly what you get as a helmet. It's just super cool.
I love his like the end of season 7 like weathered helmets, the ones that look like they've been sitting in the snow and like smashed. Those are awesome. It's like I want to see if I can do one of those personally someday, because it's like we get a lot of snow where we are. I'm like, I'll just leave it outside for the winter, see if that works.
It's hard because you have to, like, unless you get a damaged cast, you have to destroy a beautiful cast. And I think you all know how immaculate those things look when you get them, and you're like, the last thing you want to do is crack it up and like make it look like it's been sitting. So yeah, I've always thought if I ever stumble upon like a melted version or like a D grade cast, I would do something like that.
Yeah, that's actually for me. So for my Commander Blitz costume that I'm working on, it's actually all of it's a cast that I bought as kind of like a work in progress set that someone else was working on, and then they kind of just gave up on it. So that's been my project I've been working on. But the helmet is just so pristine because it was already sanded down and everything, so all the imperfections were gone. But I gotta say, like, painting it, because I'm painting it like by hand, and getting like the brow, and I didn't realize how many like grooves you have to get into and everything. So when you said there were parts you gave up on the Vaughn helmet, I was thinking to myself, yeah, I totally get it, because trying to paint it and then, I didn't set the tape the right way, so now I have to go over it again.
If I had $1 for every time I had to repaint a helmet because I didn't do it right the first time, I would be able to retire, or at least buy another 40 helmets, because I rush everything. I mean, I'm always very honest about this. Like, hey, I did a 2-hour speed build. Like, that's my goal, is to do them as fast as possible. And my fastest one to date is actually, let me see if I can reach without, hang on one second. This is gonna be tricky.
No, you're good.
It's not actually canonical, but it's my phase 2 animated style Gree.
I saw that on your story when you posted it. Yeah.
And I mean, it was like an hour and a half. And the only reason why it was that long was because I painted it too fast. And if you make helmets, you know that if you don't wait for things to dry, the minute you start trying to pull tape up, it pulls all the paint up with it. I must have pulled the paint up a dozen times. I mean, and there's like little like areas here where the paint's like cracking because I took a heat gun to it to dry it faster. So yeah, a lot of my helmets, they look great from back here, which is where everybody sees them from. But they're not necessarily so nice. I actually just did a flash sale of helmets on my Instagram. Somebody hit me up and was like, hey, why are you selling these helmets like $150? And I was like, one of you bought it. Yeah.
Yes, I was actually going to say, I brought it on in case it came up, but I have the Phase 1 Commander Wolf.
That's one of my favorites. And you can see when you look at it, it's a little hasty. But I wanted to sell helmets cheaper than normal so that people who don't normally get helmets had a chance to get them. But 2, I move so fast. I don't want anybody getting a helmet and being like, why was this $300? So I was like, if I charge $150, nobody's going to get mad. And so, yeah, that's, but that is one of my favorite ones. I do take a little bit of pride in that one. That tape job is hard.
I mean, honest to goodness, I mean, I saw it on your story, and I mean, I showed my dad, I said, Dad, I can't pass this up. This is a once in a lifetime thing. So obviously Speed got it, and I was checking the tracking probably on the hour almost every day, and it came. And in my opinion, I know you said like you rushed it and stuff, but like I think it looks perfect.
Thank you.
Our printer has been busted for some time, so we have been unable to print some helmets. And I only have the files currently for Revenge of the Sith style helmets, and only the Phase 2, not even Phase 1. And I've wanted to do a Phase 1, and so to get the Phase 1 and have it be the Clone Wars style, because the helmet that I made is actually in the other room. It's Phase 2 Waxer, but it's the realistic version based on Somolovi Art's posted on it.
We also have a 501st helmet that
I saw that
right there.
I loved that. Yeah, so that wolf helmet, fun fact, that was actually printed on our printer at Super 73. which is my bike company, we have a printer that does 3 foot by 3 foot.
Okay.
And along with that helmet, it's actually on the same printer. We have actually printed canonical helmets that have appeared in Star Wars. And I don't get to talk about that too much or the details about that because of NDAs. But that was printed on the same bed as actually some canonical Star Wars helmets that you've definitely seen.
That's
Sweet.
awesome.
That's
Super
Which is a cool bit of lore.
Mm-hmm. Like our printer, like the last print that we tried to do on it is my full costume that I want to do is I want to do Captain Rex as well. And I got done with the face part of the helmet because we have to do it in 3 sections.
Right.
And I went to take it off and there was just like a weak point along the jawline and it just ripped in half. I was so mad.
Could you salvage it?
I can salvage it. It's just
Right.
finally done. Thank goodness. Right. Like I've been at college. I haven't had the time. So it's like.
Yeah, I get it.
Maybe over break.
Yeah, we've come to find out that doing a podcast and being in college is all great. Like it's so fun. And then when midterms and finals come along, suddenly it's not so much fun anymore to try to figure out when you're going to record an episode and put it up. And it was we made it though. We did it. That's what matters. We're here. So that's
well. I mean, if you guys are doing it now, like I can only imagine what you're going to be doing in a few years. Like when your schedules are freed up and you can build things around. I think it's so cool that you're building a community and making so much content right now. It's something I wish I would have done way earlier.
I mean, it's honestly though, like probably part of the inspiration for our podcast was Rexin Around. Yes. So like that was like. For us, it was super cool to have you come on the show because this is kind of like a what is it, crossing of paths, I guess, for us. Because
I'm grateful. I really appreciate that. I don't do the podcast anymore right now, and I don't actually normally say yes to other podcasts just because I can get into it after this, but I'm in a place where I just don't want to talk. But I love you guys. Like I know about your guys' podcast. I've watched clips before. So I was like, no, I'd love to join. I think you guys are really cool. You're doing a cool, different spin on podcasts and I like the vibe a lot. So yeah, I'm in. I'm excited. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much.
You. Yeah, it's mostly Tim, I would say, for the most part, except when we're making fun of Jacob for Marvel or
stop.
Right,
so
don't bring it up.
It's like it's a theme. The Marvel thing's new, but mostly it's making fun of Jackson. That's become like a staple. We love Jackson. Like
every podcast has one. I think I was the one on mine. They get made fun of.
So
I do want
to talk about some Star Wars stuff. So. Here at our podcast, we are all huge fans of the Bad Batch.
Okay.
And
Supremacists.
Bad Batch supremacy and Vision supremacy. That's like where we're at over here.
Love that.
So like, where are you with the Bad Batch? How did you? Because I think I did watch.
I watched a lot of your stuff
when the Bad Batch was still coming out.
Yeah, but I'm way less critical than a lot of people about it. And that's, it was actually led to the final podcast we ever did was the Bad Batch finale and why it's so important. And I think there was a mix of things that kind of led us to want to stop after that. But I'm so excited to like let things breathe. Exactly. Everybody has such harsh opinions about things the minute they see it. Boba Fett trailer, the Spider-Man trailer. I mean, everything is so volatile, so fast, because I think a lot of people have felt like the only way to feel validated in sharing an opinion is to share negativity. And we talk a little bit about like, well, what does that mean? Well, I think that somebody who says, I don't like something because as simple as that thing may be, it makes them come across as if they have put thought into it and put time into it. So we're at the point where something comes out and 10 minutes later, people are like, I hate it. I'm not about it. I don't like it. It's not for me because it doesn't fit their expectations, and they can feel valid saying they don't like something. If I say I like this trailer, that tweet doesn't blow up. If I pick apart a trailer, that tweet blows up. And so we just wanted to stop adding our voices to things and just appreciate and love things. There's a lot of stuff coming out. Visions was a big one. We chose not to talk about Visions because I liked it so much. I didn't want to hear 14-year-old boys tell me why it was bad or how they ripped off too much from Japan, as if Star Wars hasn't been influenced by Japan for the last 40 years. So it was very much like, I was just like, I don't want to give them the benefit of hearing my opinion so they can tell me I'm wrong. Yeah. And that's something that as I've turned 30, I've realized I like to do a lot, is to stop talking and not be perceived. I know that's kind of a cringy thing to say, but a lot of people have opinions about me. A lot of people have opinions. And most of them are very inaccurate. Most of them are just based off of seeing one tweet or seeing one post. And I realized that the more I talk, the more that it allows people to have a perception of me and to perceive me as something that I'm not. And a lot of the time it was because I was just making stupid, silly jokes like Europe sucks and I hate Europe. And that kind of rant about Europe was very funny to me at the time. But now I come across people and they're like, yeah, that guy's like super xenophobic or whatever. And I'm like, no, I was just making a joke about how like European, like the way that like the systems work over there and the way that they get toys and the way that they get their movies was like silly. And I was making a joke about it. And then it became this thing about like that I actually have beef with Europe. And I was like, I'm just going to shut up because I really enjoying things. And I think it's easier when you don't broadcast your opinions about them. Also, I don't hate Europe. I'm going to Europe. I'm actually going to Europe in a couple of weeks. Half my business is over there. So I just thought it was funny to rile people up.
So I do want to say, actually, that is a joke that we make all the time.
Okay,
specifically England. We we trash on England.
And it's like there's no point, but it's funny to do it. Yeah, I get it.
We have European listeners that come back and comment on our stuff a lot.
And they're like, yep, that was funny.
Yep. And that's the thing is the Europeans love it. But then the people over here who are looking for a reason to come after you will weaponize anything you say. And I've got people being like, people in Australia, people in New Zealand, people in England, people in the Middle East, all over the world being like, no, we're making jokes. Like it's not an actual thing. So yeah, it's so easy to shut up. And I've been really enjoying doing that.
We had one case on the podcast where I used the word liberally, as in like generally using something or loosely. Yeah. And they took that the complete wrong direction. They're like, I would like to know what you meant by liberally. So I just copy pasted their Urban Dictionaries. Yeah. Just the definition. I was like, that's it. That's what I meant.
We're living in a really spicy time.
Yeah.
It's got some zest to it.
You can't like, God forbid you have an opinion about anything, and even respectfully, because there's people who are going to be upset about it. And I'm going to be honest, and it's mostly the group that is looking for reasons to hate the Disney era Star Wars. And I was giving them so much ammunition every week, and I was showing up in their videos, and they're all 14-year-old white boys. And I was like, all their commenters would come after me, and I would check their profiles and be like, dude, why am I letting this affect me? If you came up to me in Target and said this, I would be like, where's your mom? And that's the thing is like those opinions were starting to affect me. And I had to like distance myself, and Greg helped with that, where he was like, bro, it's like they're kids. Like it doesn't matter. Like nobody matters. Just stop giving them ammunition and you're going to be fine. And so it's been an interesting journey, to say the least.
I do want to ask, kind of like branching away from like this topic of conversation, because I don't want to forget it. What was your favorite episode of Visions? If you
you asked me about the Bad Batch, and I just went on a rant about man, the twins. I think the twins, because it's not a lot of favorite. It's not a lot of people's favorite, but
I was gonna say,
I like weird stuff a lot. Like, especially the older I get, the more I want content to be so broken and strange and different. And there's a show called I Think You Should Leave. Are you guys familiar with that show at all?
No.
It's a sketch comedy show, and it's one of the worst shows I've ever seen. And it's one of my favorite things because it misses so much, but it tries. It's the sketch comedy show that's like basically 2019 meme culture energy. That's the whole show, is that sort of like weird self-referential trolling comedy, and I love it. And Twins to me was a version of that in the way that it just broke everything. It alluded so heavily to Luke and Leia, but then turned it on its head. It's the light side, it's the dyad, it's the dark side, and then Rainbow Saber is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And it doesn't make any sense. And that's why it upset a lot of people, was like tentacle sabers, rainbow sabers, like none of it was good. But it was perfect in that it was just so odd and misfit. And that's kind of what I'm into lately is the weirder it can get. I've seen Star Wars 150 different ways, and to see something so fresh and new. And Ronin was good, but Ronin was so meditated. It was like so decided and so well done, and so like it felt like Star Wars. And Twins was just whack, and it was so cool in that it didn't feel like Star Wars, except it was full of Star Wars elements, and at the core it was Star Wars. So it was really fun, and I like the journey of that one the most.
I like that. I think the Twins was my favorite just for like the art style. It was Trigger that did it. I love Trigger because they did an anime that I've seen before called Kill La Kill. And it makes sense because Kill La Kill is weird. It's really weird. So it just kind of well transitioned over to Visions. But I think The Village Bride is probably my favorite one.
Loved that one. So good.
It looked like it was Pokemon. It was so nice. It was like all the colors are very pastel, but still vibrant, and it's just the story was really cool. Plus, we got battle droids. Who doesn't love battle droids?
I know. Yeah, that was great. I love that one. I loved all of them. I mean, I loved Visions, and I think that's especially why I didn't want to share my opinion about it, is because it was just so nice to have something that nobody could take from me in that way. And people all through the time that we were making Bad Batch episodes just criticized. If we enjoyed it, they were so mad. And to remove the ability of people to do that was really nice.
I really, to touch on, I guess, like the overall theme of like a lot of your Bad Batch episodes as well. I enjoyed that because it was a positive voice to all the negativity with the Bad Batch. I mean, we have had creators on for Have a Chat before who obviously in their own personal videos and whatnot in media, they trash on the Bad Batch, hate it, they can't stand it and whatnot. But we're like, but we love it so much. But like, I just feel like there is so much negativity. Because the point that I made before is that everybody has such like high expectations for everything. Like the biggest comparison I'm making that right now is to the new Spider-Man movie. We're gonna go fortunately see that tomorrow.
Cool.
But what was it? I know for a fact there's so many people online that if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield aren't in the movie, it would be
they're gonna be
worst
broken
rated movies of all time. I feel like, because I feel like even for me, if they're not in the movie, that's fine.
I don't care.
We get a Spider-Man movie, and I'm so excited.
And that's such a good point, is like not having expectations. And I have creators that I follow that I love that were like theorizing these crazy things, and I was like, why are you doing this? And why are you doing this with your audience? Because you're just setting expectations, and they're not going to be met no matter. And maybe for you they will be, but not for your audience that you've inflamed. And it's like, so that's where. It's why I don't want to talk about. I mean, I'm down to like chat briefly about Mando or Mando, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan. But I never wanted to be like a theory podcast because you only ruin it for yourself. Ruin it for yourself.
I feel that's what's nice about us though, because like we can deliberate and we can be like, it would be so cool if this happened. It'd be so cool if this happened. But then when it comes to it, we realize that we do not have an ounce of the creative power that it takes to create an entire show. And everybody just judges a finished product because it's very easy to judge a finished product than to go from nothing to create something. But here we're like, we can like, okay, for me personally, I have like this like theory. It's like, oh, I didn't watch the new Hawkeye episode yet, but I'm like,
that came out today.
Yes.
I need to watch that.
I was like, oh, maybe this character will appear in Hawkeye and that will influence something that happens in the new Spider-Man movie. Kind of like how we saw Grogu have that healing force power and then transitioned into Rise of Skywalker. And I have that thought, but I'm like, it's not going to happen, though. It'd be cool if it did, and I'm not going to let it ruin the movie for me. If I go there, I'm like, oh, it didn't happen, because it's I didn't create it. It's not my
That
podcast.
is so rare to have that mindset though, because a lot of people, whether or not they say it, they don't have that ability to separate their theory from what the actual product is. And you see that a lot. Not to call out any creators or anything, but I would say the community that's around Star Wars theory is very dangerous in that way, where they have their Discord and they get their theories going, and then it snowballs into something that's so big you can't release anything that's going to compare to their theories. And sometimes they put together really cool theories, and it's like, that would be rad. I would love to see that. But unfortunately, until we're the ones making the decisions, we have no say in how the creative content is done. So it's toxic and it's dangerous, even if it starts at a good place.
Yeah, I think that we've been just hitting on this week after week now, the idea of the unrealistic expectations. And it's happening. And, you're right. It's everything. It's not just Star Wars. It's not just Marvel. Everything now. People see a trailer, people hear an announcement, and already we get this idea. And if it's not what I want it to be, then it's bad. And so it's really difficult to enjoy stuff. We've just adopted the mindset of, and it's kind of passed on to most of the people that we interact with from our podcast, is I don't know how much you know about football, but
a lot.
Okay, we're all Steelers fans here, and
I'm sorry.
Mike Tomlin, the coach, the coach Mike Tomlin. There's a clip of him. It was like memed where he just goes, "We do not care."
Yeah.
And so that's like our motto. It's like, if you
Love
want to
that.
get mad or anything like that, we just don't care. You can take your opinion elsewhere, or you can leave it in our comments, and we will hide it.
Yep.
And no one will ever know what you commented.
I love that. Hold on to that, especially as you become jaded from people attacking you. Hold on to that "we do not care" mantra, because it's so good. It's so good.
So kind of hitting on Tommy saying that we've adopted a mindset. I know if a lot of people follow you on social media, you had him for a very brief second. We could see that you have recently adopted a dog, I would think.
You would think. You did see the
No,
dog.
he stole the dog.
Well, yeah.
There's the dog.
There's the dog.
His name is Hauser.
I was a part of the poll on Instagram. I was like, yep, gotta name it Hauser. That's
Thank you.
perfect.
The name Hauser actually came from Twitter. I think somebody was like, somebody said Hauser the Schnauzer, and I wasn't even considering Hauser. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's really good. And it's not like calling him Rex. I didn't really want to call him Rex because that would have been too on the nose for me. Just because that's like my whole personality already. So I felt like Hauser was a great name, and he's great, and I love him very much, and he's perfect, except that he has become very protective and is trying to attack anybody at my work. So we got to go to obedience school. But when he's just lying here, like, he is the nicest guy ever. So working on that. Yeah, it was a huge mistake, but he's mine now. So.
And that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
As long as you're happy with him.
Well, let me just say I'm not getting rid of him. That's for sure. But
That's good. That's good.
he's got to grow up a little bit.
That's good. Hey, so I wanted to ask you, so I know that you're big into tattoos. And so about a month ago, Jackson and I went and got tattoos. And so I got the J guys on my shoulder.
Sick.
And Jackson got the 5 for 5s on his chest.
We'll be getting one someday.
Yeah. Jacob wants to get
I want to get the underside of Thrawn's Chimera on my arm, because it's like, it's so niche that like if you see it, you'll just be like, that looks wicked. But if you know what it is, you'll be like, and Thrawn is so cool.
So
those tattoos are like instant friend tattoos, because if somebody sees you and they're like, I know what that is, you're like, well, okay, well, certainly we have to be friends now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I did want to say, like, as far as like tattoos go, I was gonna do, so my end goal is to have a sleeve, like a Star Wars sleeve, and I've seen some really cool ones on like TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you go about like picking what you want to get? Because there's so many ideas that I have and so many concepts, and then it's like, oh, I can't fit everything in.
When you've already ruined your body, you don't really care. And I think that's what it comes down to. I worked at a tattoo shop for a long time, and I did content for them. And in all the tattoo artists' free time, they would just tattoo me to practice. So all of my tattoos, so I have just obviously the arm, and then I probably have about 30 or 40 on my chest, back, and legs. And I always kept most of them here so that they wouldn't be seen.
Right.
But there's some good ones and some not so good ones. And I think it became like a sticker book where if something was exciting to me at the time, I would just get it tattooed. Like I've got a well done baked goldfish because I had a season of eating goldfish and playing video games all the time. A friend tattooed a little pizza on me. I have sorry, he's literally eating the table. Don't do that. I have a UFO, and I wanted him to be beaming up a cow, but we were running out of time. So I just said, can you write a cow? So he's beaming up the words a cow. And so there's a lot of tattoos like those, a lot. But for me, I've kind of decided it's like a memory book. Like I know exactly where I was in my life when all of these tattoos were done. And I think it's really cool to have those memories. And so there's times where I wish I would have been more thoughtful, like Bella. Bella on, I think her name's Bella. She's the one with the Ahsoka sleeve, the black.
Yep, that's the one I was referencing. Yeah.
She actually came out and visited recently. We talked a little bit about that, and she got no tattoos until she got her whole sleeve. Wow. And that was her kind of idea, was she wanted it to be one piece. And I have a lot of respect for people like that who are so well thought out and planned out. I have zero ability to wait. I have zero ability to control my impulses. And so, as you can tell, so the tattoos just pop up as I get them. I have General Grievous wearing a flower crown on my stomach. I have a Tell That to Conja Club that looks like a prison tattoo that goes around my chest. So they're all just like little ideas in the moment that I thought would be funny, and that's how I get tattooed.
Nice.
I need to be careful because when I got the first one, everyone was telling me, because a lot of my relatives have like sleeves, and they were like, be careful because once you get one, you're going to get addicted. And
you're
then
done,
I got one and I was already right out the door. I was like, yep, and I'm going to do this and this and this and this.
I actually just got my whole back done, and I had been keeping my back empty for a long time because it was the last place that I could actually have like a thoughtful tattoo layout. And so I went G.I. Joe on the back, and I just went back to back to back to back 4 days in a row where I just kept going back to the artist. So within 4 days, the whole back piece was done. And that was cool. It's cool to have that because it's like a different look than my other tattoos because it's so thought out and designed. There's pieces that work with the elements. So I would just recommend, like, maybe don't go about it the way I did unless you're okay with like living with regret, because it's not necessarily regret. I just don't care enough to be like, oops. But a lot of my life is that mentality of like, oops, but it's done. So let's just move on.
But isn't that like important though? Because I mean, that's how my father always parented me, was I'll let you fall on your face. Like I'll help you get up after you fall, but I definitely like falling on your face is like one of the best ways that you learn. So I think that's like important in that way, you know?
I agree, but I think with something like tattoos, like falling on your face with a job or quitting too early or dating somebody that you don't think is a good idea, those things don't necessarily have like permanent consequences.
Right.
And so I always really like I have a very good understanding of consequences. And so, you know, with the sleeve, it's like, it was always just going to be this way. It was always going to be a sticker book. And I think it's a rare outlook for somebody to have. And maybe you have it where you're like, well, I'll just get them as they come in. If you have that, awesome. But just be sure that you know that you have that and you're not just being impulsive in the moment. Not you, but I mean, it just your listeners in general.
Yeah,
right.
Nice. I feel a bit, I mean, for me as well, I really want to like stick with pieces that like mean something specific. So I mean, it's like the one that I got for fives. Obviously, I like fives, but I also like the like message that he gave, because like the point that like I always want to hit home is like good soldiers follow orders. Not like you can't go your entire life willingly following something that you know is wrong. So it's like that was like a lesson that like I wanted to be able to like teach people like in the future as well, like as I go on.
That's super cool. I love that. I think for me, I just don't have anything. It's hard. I always wanted to attach so much significance to my tattoos because I love people that do that. I think that's so much cooler, but I think I just don't allow myself to think in that way, where I'm like, how could this be, you know, a good, like I got one, my mom used to sing like that hot air balloon song to me every night. And so I got that for her. And then I was like, I don't really care. I don't really care about it. Like, it's so funny because out of all my tattoos, I love my mom. I got a tattoo for her. She hates it. But I think it's like, I was like, oh, that's so weird. I thought that this would carry this weight for me, and it didn't. And so I realized I'm just not one of those people. But I know people who are, and their tattoos always look cooler for it because they're so thoughtful.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do my sleeve because, I mean, you know, my mother definitely is not happy about me wanting to get tattoos, but she got over it, and that's all that matters, right? But
yeah,
my dad is a fantastic illustrator. So
cool.
I'm actually gonna have him illustrate once we end up getting the time, probably like this summer. We'll start like stenciling like different ideas and different. It just now it's like there's so many moments that are important to me in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, with the J guys was just a representation of, like, kind of like Jackson said with Fives, of what Rex represents to me.
Love that.
And
yeah.
So
love
now
that.
it's like, what do I pick and where do I fit it all in? So,
and are you going to be bummed if in 10 years, Star Wars content that you love more than anything else is released and you're like, oh man, I should have put it here, but I ran out of room.
Well, I do have another arm.
That's true. It's a good point. It's a good point. No, but I love that if you do feel strongly about something and it's part of your message, like, you know, you mentioned with Fives and Rex, I like get that because you're never going to regret those things. You really won't. You'll regret stupid, silly, dumb tattoos, but you won't regret something that you really believe in.
Yeah, that was one of the things my mom said when I showed it to her. She goes, well, what's gonna happen when you get all old and wrinkly? And I said, well, I won't care, because it's like, it's the message of it that I care about.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, love my mom.
Also,
shout out to my mom. But
we're millennials and Gen Z. We don't know if the world's going to be around when we're older anyways, so
that's tremendous fact.
might as well live now.
So actually, I guess to kind of hit on this as well, because you did mention your parents. What do your parents think of your Star Wars collection, obsession, and I guess like your overall hobby with it?
I was always like really obsessive. We talked a little bit about the ADHD stuff. And part of how that was made physical was my obsession with things. I was always obsessed with stuff. When I was really little, every time I'd come inside, my pockets would be full of rocks, and I had thousands of rocks. It was my rock collection, and none of them had any purpose. None of them looked remarkable. It was the ones that I would see and be like, that one's coming home with me. I don't know why. Then it became balloons, and I would literally I would get balloons, and I'm talking like 5 or 6. I'm not talking like 12 or 13. But I would get balloons for doing good things. Like my mom would give me a balloon because I loved it. And I would save the balloon even once the air was gone. And then it was, sorry, he is just going to town on.
You're fine.
It was G.I. Joes and weirdly like nutcrackers. I know that's so strange. I had like 60 nutcrackers as a kid, but it was this obsessive, like I have to have them all. And it just kept growing. And I'm sitting here next to like 80 Hot Toys figures in glass cases. But something that Janae said to me, my wife, made me feel really good. She goes, I love that you collect things because of how much time you spend admiring them. Even in front of me, there's like 8 action figures that are posed like right here. Because whenever I sit down to play video games here, I bring a couple action figures and I'll set them down next to me so that in the middle when things are loading, I can just kind of like pose him and like mess with him. And it's really interesting that like it wasn't just, my mom always thought that it was obsession for the sake of having things, but I've really realized as I've gotten older, it's obsession for the sake of admiring the art or what's remarkable about it. And so the things I collect now, I used to buy every Black Series figure to just have them all, but I stopped doing that. And I only buy the things that really like speak to me. And doing that, it allows me to kind of control that. And my parents have seen the success that comes from it. So I think they're okay with it now. Like the obsession with Super 73 that got it to the point where it is today. And even my Star Wars career, I mean, there's stuff that I'm unable to talk about that everybody will get to see next year, that it's like, oh, he's not just a fan. Like it's actually turning into an opportunity. And so, with those things, I think once they realized that it wasn't an obsession with anything dangerous, they were very much okay with it. And I think they're proud of it now, which is nice. I think that they teach parenting classes, and they talk a lot about like my weird tendencies. And I think that it's allowed them to say like, look, he's kind of weird. Yeah. But he's been able to spin it into a business thing, and maybe your kid can do that too.
I'm definitely also an ADHD kid with that, like a little bit of an obsessive tendency. Mine doesn't necessarily fall within like collecting things per se. While we do have like a rather large collection, mine definitely falls within like media. So like I'll go like for one summer, like I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTube channel Corridor Digital.
Yeah, I've worked with them.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I watched almost nothing but Corridor Crew videos for a summer. It's like when a new album comes out, like for my favorite band right now is Ice Nine Kills. They came out with an album, and I've just like listened to it like nonstop, and it's been like 2 months now, and I still listen to it every day.
He does.
Jacob has this tendency. He can listen to the same song for months.
Yes.
Like eventually like you get tired of the song. No, not Jacob.
No, I don't.
I get it. I get it. I listened to, and I don't know why this happened, but I listened to Space Girl. My Spotify told me like 700 and some odd times. And so I get it, but it's because you admire like every inch and every grain of creativity that was put into that one thing. And it's definitely weird, but I'm telling you, it's a good weird. I think it's really special.
My new thing is I've gotten like really into horror movies. Like I've watched one movie in the past 2 months that hasn't been a horror movie. I've just been like binging them. I'm like, because it's just like that the album that I've been listening to, it's like every song's based off a movie. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder like what the hype is all about then, as to why they're creating entire albums based on these movies. And then I'm watching it, I'm like admiring it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. Even like the old like ones from the 80s that are super cheesy are like awesome in their own way. So I've been nonstop for that.
What are you majoring in?
Electrical engineering, actually.
Okay,
So
that's probably good. I mean, I feel like if you're obsessed with details and obsessed with like living and stuff, you can really take that and with engineering. I mean, we have a bunch of electrical engineers, and nobody knows their stuff better than them, because they pour over it for like hours and hours and hours. And I think like you can take that, and for me, it was like learning algorithms, and it was learning like trends, and it was learning like what are people interested? What is marketing? Like, why does that affect people so much? And it's crazy how much I was able to teach myself from my obsessions to allow my company to succeed. And I think if people like you, who are so stuck on one thing, the minute you find that like outlet, that minute you find that way to make it work with making money, you're going to explode. You're going to succeed on such a high level. And it's like, it's not about shaking those obsessions, but just kind of directing them into beneficial areas.
It's like my one thing is I am obsessed with electric vehicles. I own a one wheel right now. My next hit list is a Super 73.
I can convert you.
I'm looking at the S1 model. Don't even tempt me. I look like you had that Black Friday sale, and I was like, it's like $100 off. It's $150.
Bro, you can hit me up for a deal. All right.
Ooh. It's like, but no, it's like I'm obsessed with like that. I'm like, for Tesla, it's like my dream things to like work at and work on. I'd love to like work on electric vehicles just because I think they're so cool. It's like they're more powerful, they're more efficient, they're greener. It's just like I think they're amazing. My dad is still like a very like kind of like gas is the way to go kind of man, but I'm like, nah, electric. So it's like that's kind of like what made me want to go into like electrical engineering as a major. So
you have no shortage of job opportunities, man. It is exploding. Did you see Toyota just released their electric Tacomas?
Did you see I forget if it was BMW or if it was Honda. Somebody created a electric motorcycle that's self-balancing and self-driving.
BMW.
Yeah.
They've had that technology for like 10 years, but they just don't know what to do with it. And it's like, bro, like release it. Crazy.
I saw the demos of it and I was like,
yeah,
it's so cool.
Love that.
One wheel bike.
One wheel.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah. So no, you going?
No, I'm good. I oozed out my electrical stuff.
Yeah, we can have a separate electrical conversation.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's kind of. I am curious about the good old Bad Batch. So
yeah,
what was it for you with that show? Because I know, I mean, I'm wearing a Bad Batch shirt right now, actually. And so I got there it is.
I didn't see that.
So how did you feel like with that finale? Because for me, I know for Crosshair, I'm still a little bit confused as to what's going on with him. Whether or not he willingly took out his chip or like he thinks he took out his chip.
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah. Man, I think so. I was just along for the journey. I was going to love it regardless of what they gave me week after week. And I think Clone Wars season 7 taught me that because I had some frustrations with a couple of those arcs because I was like, we're running out of time and we're not getting anything. And so with the Bad Batch, I was like, let me just be a part of the journey. Like, let me just buy a ticket for this thing and just sit and let it take me where it takes me. So Crosshair is an interesting one because I think within the Star Wars world, there's no universe where they don't redeem him. But could this be the first time that they kind of break that storytelling trope and don't redeem a character? And I thought about it both ways. I do ultimately think because it's a kids centered show still, it's not going to be like the darker stuff they're going to release. I do think they'll redeem him, but I love that it's taking a long time. If they had wrapped it up in season 1, like everybody was like saying they should have, well, that's the point. Like, why keep going? Because you're just going to get the same Star Wars story that you've always gotten of rebels fighting the Empire. But to have Crosshair still kind of caught in the middle makes me so much more excited. I'd watch that for 2 more seasons. And I know that's an unpopular opinion, but the journey of like, and getting that Crosshair development on that final episode was huge to like, be like, oh my gosh, all of his friends left him and he's so hurt. And this is perspective. Like so many times Star Wars is just black and white. Yeah. Either you're good or you're bad. If you're not with me, you're my enemy. And for the first time, it wasn't black and white, and it pissed fans off because they wanted to see him redeemed. And I think to see that we could get that for a couple more seasons and learn that like, oh, Crosshair's a good guy in his own mind. He's doing the right thing. And that's so the world right now. Everybody thinks they're the hero. And because of that, it causes this division because everybody's so intently certain that they're the ones on the right side of history. And I think the Bad Batch did a perfect job of showing weaknesses and failures on both sides.
I really like that you brought up the idea of perspective because in this show, because, you know, we saw Omega coming and everyone kind of was like, oh, it's another Mando Grogu. It's another Ezra Kanan. It's another Anakin Ahsoka. You know, we're so used to this like either older brother, younger sister kind of like trope, you know? And so with this show, it kind of puts that and spins it because you have Omega giving the Bad Batch and particularly Hunter new perspectives and new ideas that they wouldn't have seen otherwise. So I think that, yeah, perspective is absolutely like an overarching theme of the show. And even with like seeing the different perspectives of Echo, who was a Reg and understands how it feels to be expendable, whereas everyone in the Bad Batch is valued by the Kaminoans. So I think that, yeah, that's absolutely a big theme of the show.
And I think that's why I'm fine with it taking as much time as it wants, because there's endless stories they could tell with that. I mean, we didn't get to see an episode where Echo was, you know, fleshed out the way that you suggested. Like, that is his mentality. We've seen it bits and pieces, but imagine like a 4-episode arc about that. Like, imagine a 4-episode arc about how Tech doesn't understand anybody, how he feels so alone in this group because he considers himself so different from them. You know, Wrecker in that like nobody understands him. Like there's so many places for them to go. I was so glad to not see resolution at the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm. It makes it interesting. It keeps it fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, because I really love Rebels. I don't understand why people hate Rebels so much. They're like the art looks weird. I'm not even gonna give it a chance. So it's like, I love how Rebels did like the War Between Worlds. It's something that's new, it's fresh, it's creative. It was something that you've never seen in Star Wars before, kind of like exploring like the depths of the power of the Force and like what it can really do. And it's like, I like it when it's new. It's kind of like why you like the twins for the Visions episode. It's something new, it's fresh. Yeah. It's like, I like to see them experiment with stuff, kind of like how Marvel is experimenting with their genres. The new Doctor Strange movie is supposed to be a horror movie, and I am beyond excited for that. It's because it's new. Yeah. So when they film something, it's awesome.
I think Marvel's doing a great job for Star Wars because Star Wars won't do it itself, of pushing the boundaries and making the fans demand that. Because Disney's era Star Wars tried to give Star Wars something new, and it made everybody very, very upset. And so they pulled back and they're like, all right, let's just go safe. And then Marvel started to unroll these like crazy, like alternate dimensions and, you know, different takes on the same characters, and people started to like it. And now Star Wars fans are like, can we have some of that too? And so it's weird, like watching, you know, the little brother get to do it themselves made Star Wars want to be like, oh, okay, I want to do that too now. When it was like, hey, well, that was always an opportunity, but you just didn't want it at first.
Yeah, I think particularly with the Bad Batch 2, I mean, obviously, like I have a tattoo of a clone reference. So for all three of us, the clones were our favorite part of the Clone Wars. Literally, like to this day, I'll go back and like I literally try to avoid watching certain episodes of the Clone Wars because seeing a nameless clone die in a certain way
it hurts.
Sad.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it just goes to show how powerful the show is, and in making you care about these clones as individuals. And so I think that what really makes me excited to see more from the Bad Batch is just seeing this show talk about these characters that I wish got a chance, because the clones they don't get a happy ending. They don't get like the stuff that so many other characters get. They don't get resolution. They're brainwashed and that's it. So I'm very excited to see where this show goes, and it'll probably make me cry. But I mean, even still though, I hope that there's at least a resolution to it so I can put myself at ease about the clones.
We're all just, we love pain because we're clone fans, and the only fate for a clone is to die. And so it is interesting how we've all kind of tied ourselves to these characters whose whole point was to be expendable.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Gotta love the clones. Gotta love the clones.
Yeah.
So this is just a minor question, but I think I know the answer. Who's your favorite member of the Bad Batch?
Oh, Tech. Hands
That's
down.
what I figured.
Yeah.
You did his costume like first, so I was like, it's probably Tech. I just want to see why though.
I've never had that mentality of wanting to be first, especially in cosplay, because I think that sort of can be a toxic trait. But with Tech, I wanted to be first. I was like, I can do this. I know I can do this. So I was able to, with one of our engineers at Super 73, model out his armor. And it took a long time. And that thing was so uncomfortable to wear. I was like bleeding after the shoot. But it was not good. I'm not going to ever wear it again. I can tell you right now, if I ever do Tech again, it'll be with another kit, because it was so painful. But I wanted so bad to like set the bar, like set the tone, be like, hey, these Bad Batch characters are here. Let's love them. Let's like jump on board. And I think, you know, my Tech shoot did kind of help open. I mean, that thing went so viral on so many different platforms that it's like, I think it did help open the world to these characters a little bit in terms of the cosplayers, and the cosplayers are always going to come around, but kind of being like, no, this is what we're doing now, everybody. Okay,
Mhm.
here's the assignment. It was
Mhm.
kind of like, okay, let's go. So everybody else starts rushing to be the first wrecker, the first, hunter, the first crosshair. And so it was really cool. And the Tech Bad Batch has kind of become the tech. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram.
I do know who you're
He's
talking about.
Yeah, he is like just the nicest guy in the world, and he loves that character. And it was so cool to get to talk to him about it and to kind of watch him take that thing as he kind of took it in the way that I took Rex, where I was like, I'll bring Rex everywhere. Like Rex will be my personality. And I'll be the Rex at all the events and everything, because I love that character so much. And Tech Bad Batch on Instagram has really kind of done that with Tech. So it's cool to see.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
I do. I know. I remember from one of your later episodes, you also mentioned how, I forget who it was. It was one of your friends actually got to be the first CRL approved Scarif Trooper. And then you were talking about the complications with that as well, about how a lot of people ended up getting upset or didn't think it was correct. And I was like, that's such a stupid thing, because the costume looks amazing. So it's like, if the costume looks amazing, just let it be. I mean, it's like everybody else has stuff going on in their lives, and it isn't like a huge deal if you're not first.
Yeah. The 501st approached me, not like the whole organization, obviously some leadership in the organization, about getting Tech up to CRL levels, and then him being the CRL. And I was very, very against that, because I think the clubs are great. I talk about this a lot, and I also get like tied to being anti-club because I had that podcast that kind of blew up. But it's not true. Like the clubs are great. The clubs do a lot of good in Southern California. I don't think the clubs are so good, because there's a lot of not evil, but below level intentions within members of the clubs out here for clout, for fame, for invitations to premieres. And so it gets muddied. It gets really muddied. But I'm a big fan of the clubs, but I knew that bringing Tech into it would have made me hate that process.
Yeah.
They have very, very high standards, and I'm not a fan of them, and I understand why they have them. But I think the members, without meaning to, give cosplaying a lot of times a bad look because they seem so elitist. And I remember, because when I was first brought into the clubs, I was basically kind of brainwashed by the group down here to reject anything that isn't canonical, reject anything that isn't screen accurate, because that's what they drill into you. Because for a lot of the events, you have to be screen accurate. And I understand that. But it wasn't until later that I learned how dangerous that thought process was for people who don't have the ability to make something screen accurate, the funds, the talent, the time. It was devalidating their hard work. And I never wanted to be somebody like that, which is why I kind of started speaking out against joining clubs. Because if your armor is not exactly to that level, and that's not something you really want to pursue, you're only going to end up hating the process, hating cosplaying, hating the character, and never wanting to go back to it. So that's kind of the what I would caution people towards. But I do love the clubs. I'm very good friends with a lot of the leadership. I still work with them for a lot of different events and stuff. So, I think they're great. But I didn't want Tech to be the CRL. That's for sure.
That makes sense, because it's like I know it's like working on any kind of passion project. It's like when you have the creative freedom to do what you want, and when you see it's done and you see it's fit, it's much more rewarding than for somebody to come in and be like, that's not done, you need to fix this, or you're not allowed to join the cool kids table at lunch. So I can see why it's kind of just like, it's annoying. I feel like for some people it's more rewarding because it gives more of a challenge. But for somebody like me, I feel like it'd be so frustrating. I'd be like, it would make me want to be done with the project. Like,
absolutely. And it's killed the passion for a lot of really talented cosplayers. And so that's why I think I warn against it, is because unless you have that mentality, unless you're aware of that, it can kill the project for you, and it can kill your love for Star Wars. I tell you, I've seen a ton of Ahsoka cosplayers lose interest in the character entirely because of how toxic that group was for a while. So it's a dangerous game, but I do still think, the clubs are awesome for their intended purposes.
When they do the charity work, they're pretty neat.
Oh yeah.
I feel like on the East Coast, because it's like we don't have to worry about getting picked to go to like a premiere or getting pulled to do like some sort of shoot. I feel the people over here just they're more in love with it just to be in love with it. I know his dad was like probably like one of the biggest people into it within our area.
Love that.
So
yeah, my dad was on he helped start the first costumes for Clone Armor
Cool.
after the prequels, when the prequels were coming out, and then he was also on the approval board for a while for like Clone Trooper costumes when it all started. And it's like it's very, very cool for me to just know that like that's the man that's helping me work on mine. And
yeah, you are so lucky. I am so insanely
excited.
Jealous. I'm so jealous.
Excited. Yeah, but it's just made it, and it's been a good opportunity because we talk about a lot how Star Wars is important, not just with found family, but to connect with your family in the real world too. And definitely for me with my father, I crave right now because I'm still at school right now, but I'm craving having that time over break where I can just work on that armor. We're in the painting phase now. Cool. We've gotten all the fitting done pretty much. So it's just I can't wait for the final product to come out. And then honestly to just go troop, like Toys for Tots, parades. We do like a Halloween event at our local zoo that the 501st attends for a night. So like
so cool.
I'm just excited to just take it all in and be a part of it.
And that was kind of some feedback I got after the podcast, and I wish I had been more clear about it. Was like people from the Midwest were like, what are you talking about? Everybody's super cool over here. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm talking about like these heavy trafficked large city areas. England was a little bit of trouble. Germany was a little bit of trouble. LA, obviously, San Francisco, unbelievably so, because those are all areas that get those celebrity level events. And when people's entire life is the costume club, standing in the way of them getting to succeed, it can become violent, and there's a lot of that out here where people are trying to ruin each other's lives because somebody wants to be Han Solo at the parade, because it's all these people have. And you're taking fans of Star Wars, who a lot of us fans of Star Wars don't necessarily have the best social skills, and that's why we like Star Wars. It attracts the disenfranchised, and you're putting them together in an organization with a government structure. You have people who have social issues who are disenfranchised now making decisions at like a government level. It just can become very dangerous. And so that's why I still like the clubs. Sorry, my dog is snoring. I don't know if you can hear him, but if you can, let me know. Okay. It's why I still love the clubs. I just don't know if I love them around the Hollywood area, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think that I'm trying to think of where I was going with this. It's okay. I have self-diagnosed short-term memory loss, so I just say things and I forget.
I also think it's good to not. I don't want to. I just want to make sure we come off the right way, and that the clubs are obviously phenomenal things, but yeah, I mean, there's good and bad about everything.
So we're gonna get it a little bit wrapped up here. So real quick, we had just a couple rapid fire questions we always give to people. So favorite movie first, I do want to know.
Star Wars movie?
Yes.
Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
All
right.
It's tied with Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith, right below is Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Depends on the mood.
And then what's the other one we always ask? What is
Wasn't it favorite? It was in a favorite film, favorite character, favorite show, or what one was it?
Favorite show. Yeah. What's favorite Star Wars show right now?
It's still the Clone Wars. I think Kenobi could win that spot though, when it comes out.
That show.
I think Kenobi could win it. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. And Kenobi's coming out around the time of Star Wars Celebration, which is just gonna, if that still happens, it's going to explode the fandom. So I'm excited for Kenobi.
That's awesome.
It'll be nice.
But other than that, did you have any questions for us before we close out here?
I mean, no, I think I'm super honored that you guys invited me on. I think what you're doing is super cool, and I am honored that you considered me to be on your show. So thank you. Yeah, I mean, I guess keep doing what you're doing. Somebody's got to kind of be that positive center of the fandom. So it's cool to see guys like you stepping up for that. And yeah, I would just recommend your listeners to continue trying to be better than the comment sections. Because that's the best piece of advice. But yeah, thank you so much for letting me come on here.
Yeah, and thank you for being on the show. This was awesome for us, and we've had such a pleasant time having a conversation with you. So one thing that we do on the Have a Chat series is we always like to plug our guests' social media. So what we're going to do here is right now, Jacob is pulling up your YouTube channel, and so
I think it's just Rexin Around.
Oh yeah,
indeed it is.
Let's see if I can figure this out. I'm usually not the one to do this.
Share screen.
Okay.
Microsoft Edge tab.
Okay.
And then Rexin Around.
Okay.
Hey,
we're there.
Hey!
There it is.
Wow, look at that year-old podcast still being my featured episode.
What happened?
What happened? So that's my YouTube channel. The last few videos were the Kyber sisters. That podcast actually wrapped as well.
That podcast was great, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was such a cool learning experience, and it was a cool opportunity to kind of open that fandom up. But we'll eventually come back. I think everybody's eventually going to come back.
Great. Awesome.
Just a matter of time.
Nice.
Sweet.
All right. Well,
do you want to hit it with the closing, Jacob?
Give us the spiel. Give us the spiel.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the 1313 channel, as well as subscribe to Rexin Around if you're not already. And if you're not already, how? That's it's impossible. So be sure to subscribe. His link is going to be in the description below. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and be sure to join our Discord. We have lots of fun in there. It's another non-toxic community where we just have a bunch of fun Star Wars conversations, collectors, and yeah.
And real quick, we just got granted access from Spotify.
Yes.
We now have video on Spotify. So if you have not checked that out yet, and you're an audio listener, feel free to check us out on Spotify. You'll be able to see our pretty faces for the first time.
Yes.
Woo. So so I think that about wraps it up. Thank you again to Rexin Around for being on the show. And everybody, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.